Hello, friend. You are listening to the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast, and I am so thankful that you are. My name is Mike McCurry, and it's my privilege to be speaking to you today. We have a little bit of a first today, kind of a week of firsts. We are going to jump back in time, all the way to 1979, and this will be the first time that we are doing a video version of this broadcast at the same time that many of our listeners will be hearing a message from Dr. Paul Levin. All of you actually will be able to hear this message, but some of you are watching this broadcast on YouTube and on Facebook. You can just search for Bible Tract Echoes and find this particular broadcast. I'm so thankful for the many radio listeners. This program plays on over 100 different stations nationwide. I'm so very thankful for each and every one of you. Many of you habitually listen to this broadcast in the archived podcast version on demand. For all of you that are watching or listening right now, thank you so very much for being a part of our ministry and for partnering with us, even just for these few moments of investment today. Greatly appreciate your time. I mentioned that we are going to be hearing from our founder, Dr. Paul Levin. Many of you may be familiar, but let me give you a brief introduction. Dr. Paul was a committed Christian. He was a fiery preacher, a jovial guy, a funny guy, to be honest with you, a good singer. But he was also very smart. I say was in the past tense because unfortunately our founder, Dr. Paul, he passed away in 1996, but many of his messages live on, and today is no exception. From 1979, we get to hear a message titled Peter. Speaking of the Apostle Peter, the disciple Peter, but Peter in the sifter. And Dr. Paul is going to give you a little bit more of an introduction. It's a well thought out message this week that really should and could apply to each and every one of us. Here's the thought, here's the theme I want you to grab onto for the next few moments. We need to separate the junk from the genuine. Separate the junk from the genuine. I'll come back with just a few short closing words at the conclusion of today's broadcast. Listen to Dr. Paul Levin from 1979 speak to us about Peter in the sifter.
Open your Bibles, please, to Luke. Luke chapter 22. The way you find Luke is you find the book of Jude. Then you go to your left. Keep going to your left, you'll come to Luke after a while. That's the easy way. Okay. The book of Luke. Matthew, Mark, Luke, chapter 22. I'm bringing this little study today by request. And I announced it yesterday so that if any of you heard it before and you didn't want to come, you could have stayed away. So I tried to be nice about it. But anyway, here it is again. It may be that if you were here before when I used it, you've forgotten it, which I hope you did. All right. Now, Luke chapter 22, and look with me at verse 31. The Lord said, Simon, Simon, talking to Simon Peter, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, that doesn't mean when you get saved, when you get converted and get saved. The word converted means to be turned around again. So what he's saying is, when you get converted, when you get turned around again, when you get back on the right track and get down where you belong, then you can strengthen your brethren. Because of what you're going to go through, you'll be able to help your brethren when they go through this. Verse 33, and he, Peter, said to him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee both into prison and into death. Now, Lord, I'm just going to follow you. I'll go right with you. If you go to prison, I'll go with you. You die, I'll go with you. All right, now notice what the Lord said, verse 34. And he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. That was a big surprise for Peter. I can't believe that, Lord. You're telling me that I'm going to deny you 3 times, he couldn't believe it. And he said unto them, well, we won't read any further than that. We'll stop at verse 34. The cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. Now notice in verse 31. The Lord said to Peter, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. They had 2 different methods of separating the wheat from the chaff. I'm going to go kind of slow so we don't miss any of this. You got to hang on to this all one thought here, or you'll lose the whole business. They had 2 methods of separating the wheat from the chaff. One of these was by winnowing. Now, winnowing was a process by which they would get rid of the chaff. And then they had the wheat left in their hands or sifter or whatever they had it. Not the sifter, but they would, for example, they would throw the wheat and everything up in the air, and the wind would blow the chaff away. And then when the wind would blow the chaff away, you just had the wheat left. So winnowing got rid of the chaff, and all you had left was the wheat. Now sifting was just the opposite. Sifting was also a method of separating the wheat from the chaff, but in sifting, you would get rid of the wheat and just have the chaff left. In other words, they put the wheat in. They put this in a sifter, and the wheat would go through. The wheat would go through the sifter, and it'd have the chaff left in it. You still with me? Let me run this through again, so you get this now. There are 2 ways to separate the wheat from the chaff. One was by winnowing. Winnowing got rid of the chaff, and you had the wheat left. But in sifting, you got rid of the wheat, and you had the chaff left. Now notice, the Lord didn't say to Peter, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may winnow you as wheat. See, the Bible's so accurate. The Bible doesn't make any mistakes. And notice now, he said, the devil wants you, Peter, but he wants you. He doesn't want to winnow you. The devil doesn't want to get rid of the chaff in your life so people see the wheat. No, the devil wants to put you in the sifter. And the devil wants to put you through a process by which all the people will see in your life is the chaff. He wants to get rid of the wheat so they can see the chaff. You see, all of us have chaff in our life, just like Peter did. And we've got to get rid of the chaff so that we have just the wheat left. The Lord has to separate the junk from the genuine. There's some genuine in us, but there's a lot of junk. So the Lord has to separate the junk from the genuine and the wheat from the chaff. And He can do it 2 ways. He can do it by winnowing, or if that doesn't work, then He can allow the devil to do it by sifting. The Lord does the winnowing. The Lord puts you through a process by which, when He gets through it with you and with me, people see the wheat. They see what's real. They see what's genuine. They see what's good. But if that doesn't work, if we don't let the Lord winnow us to get rid of the chaff out of our lives so people see the wheat, then He will allow the devil to sift us. And when the devil sifts us, then we fail and we fall, and then people look at us and they see the chaff. Now that's what the devil wanted to do with Peter, see? Okay, so the easy way to get the wheat separated from the chaff is the winnowing. And that's what we ought to learn this morning. We ought to learn enough to let the Lord winnow us and let the Lord separate the wheat from the chaff that's in our life. Now, I don't know if you've got any chaff in your life, but I've always had a lot in mine. Peter had a lot of chaff in his life, and he didn't realize it. When Peter said, when he was very proud and boastful, and he said, there's no chaff in my life. See? Yes, there was, or he wouldn't even said that. The fact that he said it showed that there was chaff in his life. Okay. So, now, let's get the picture. Simon, Satan had desired to have you that he may sift you as wheat. He's going to put you through a process where you're going to fall, you're going to fail, just like the wheat goes through the sifter and falls. you're going to fall, you're going to sin, you're going to do wrong. And when people look at you, they're not going to see any wheat in your life. They're not going to see what's real and genuine and good. They're going to see the chaff and the no good part of you. And then he said, now, Peter, he said, I've prayed for you. I've already prayed for you that your faith fail not. Okay, now let's get the overall picture. The devil comes to the Lord one day and he says, hey, this man Peter who's following you around. Now, he seems to be kind of a big wheel in your crowd, but I want you to know, this is the devil saying this to the Lord now. I want you to know that this man Peter is just a big, wandering, thundering, blundering bag of wind. He's all show. He's just a big mouth, blustering hypocrite. He's a phony. He's a fraud. There's no wheat in him. He's nothing but chaff. And if you just let me put him through the sifter, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove he's nothing but chaff. And I'll prove it to everybody else. I'll prove it to his wife. And if you got any kids, I'll prove it to his kids. And I'll prove it to his pastor. I'll just prove to everybody that he's no good at all. Now, the Lord thought this over, and the Lord said to himself, now, it is true that there's a lot of chaff in Peter's life. He's proud. He's arrogant. He thinks he's really somebody. You know, he's got the chaff in his life. And a lot of folks have the chaff, you know. Like the fellow that says you ought to read my tremendous book on humility. It's the greatest book on humility that's ever been written.
Let's be honest, friend. Sometimes we, and I'm not just talking to you, I'm saying we, me included, a lot of times we have a good amount of chaff in our lives. A lot of chaff that we need to get rid of. Well, friend, let me counsel you, number one, to get rid of that chaff, but number two, consider sticking around this entire week as we continue this message from Dr. Paul Levin titled, Peter in the Sifter. He's going to tell us how and why we should get rid of that chaff. I want to thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for lending your ear to our founder. Even though he's long been in heaven, I'm thankful for the powerful and truthful words he gave us today and will continue to all this week. My prayer from our ministry and our team here at Bible Tracts Incorporated is that you have a great day for His glory. Join us every day this week. God bless.